Hey Tommy, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. How you doing today?
Awesome. I was pondering on this issue that I'm having. I mean, it is an issue in the sense of like I'm not asking consequence questions and
Okay.
like I'm doing some future pacing, but like I'm asking more like like what are you gonna do? Like what is it gonna be like when you're gonna achieve the goal, you're gonna have the hire and whatever. But I'm not doing that all the time, and
hmm
that comes from like a more like a fear. I mean, a fear where I'm just like kind of mind reading the other person, and I'm expecting them to be weirded out. Like, well, how is this relevant to the hiring process or that kind of thing? So
hmm
I'm just yeah, I'm wrestling with that. Like my plan of action is to just experiment and try
Okay.
doing it and see what happens. Um, because like I'm trying to think about it from that perspective of like making it make sense for the prospect and why it's
hmm
useful for them to understand it.
hmm
And um, based on my understanding so far, like I do genuinely believe it's also in their best interest to to understand the full value and for me to make them see that. But at the same time, it's kind of like in my interest as well. Like
Okay.
in my mind,
Well,
it's like
what's
these
what's
people know
wrong?
already.
Well, if it's in their best interest, why does it matter if it's also in your best interest?
Um,
Because what matters is what gets them the best results. And if you happen to also benefit from it, like that's like businesses 101. Like you do something for someone that helps them, and then you get paid for it. So everybody wins. So as long as
yeah,
at the end of the day, like you feel that you're not trying to do something weird, like you're actually trying to give them the best chance of being able to like grow their business, then you shouldn't feel guilty about that at all.
I feel it's like more in my best interest because like I presume they're already aware of like what's gonna happen if they have the right hire and how awesome it's gonna be, and then the consequence. And me asking those questions, it's more
Okay.
about me making sure there's a lot of value for them, and it's more like I'm trying to make sure of that for myself.
Okay. So
And
then how can we change it so that way you're not trying to come from a you perspective, it's coming from a them perspective?
like
Because basically what you're saying is that I feel like I am trying to get them to do something to serve me, as opposed
mhm,
to do this process to serve them. Meaning your
yeah,
intention is to try to serve yourself, not to serve them. So what we have to do is change it. So instead of coming from a place of I'm trying to serve me, it comes from the open, honest, and transparent place of trying to help them. Because here's the thing. You said, I presume that they
mhm,
get this or they know all this stuff, but how do you actually know? You don't. So by you
yeah.
assuming something about them, what does that make? If you assume something, do you know the saying that goes along with that?
It's not good, but I don't know the same.
If
If
you
I,
assume something, it makes an ass out of you and me. So we don't
okay.
assume. So basically, all that I'm saying, Caesar, is that you're obviously trying to do well, and there's nothing wrong trying to go to like a super detailed level of coming at this and getting rid of the specific internal challenges. But if you look at the business owner you're speaking with, and you're like, at the end of the day, if I'm talking with this person, I ask them all these questions and I figure out that this is not going to help them, I'm not going to try to sell this person. If you can come at it from that place of genuinely wanting what's best for them, all these issues will go away. Do you know why?
Yeah, because I understand if I'm like I'm coming from the place of wanting to help, then it's
Then
not
they'll feel it.
my in
They'll
they'll
feel
feel
it.
it. Yeah.
Like today, I just closed a guy today, and he basically was coming onto the call. He's like, I kind of want to see what you guys do. I want to see what you
Hmm.
guys have. Like, that's what I'm here for, is to see how everything works because I'm a little confused. I was like, okay, yeah, that's definitely not an issue. We can go on to that. We can touch on that. But my question is, what is it that you saw originally that made you want to talk with me? Like, what is it that stood out to you? Oh, I saw an ad. It's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I know we do ads, but like, really, like, what is it that you saw that stood out to you? And then he's like, well, I saw that you can like make money. I was like, okay, awesome, man, that's great. Now, just to let you know what we do, really, my intention is not to uh, cover stuff that doesn't matter because we do a lot of different things, and we actually do. Like, we sold a package last month for $100,000. That closer made freaking like 16 grand in one transaction. So they were
Hmm.
laughing all the way to the bank last month. Um, but if I'm acting like I need them to follow my process, bloody, 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 blah, guess what? If he pushes back on me saying, well, why don't you just tell me what you guys do? I can say, well, here's the thing, man. I could talk about the $100,000 thing, but you live in Boise, Idaho, and you're an engineer. Chances are you don't have $100,000 laying around because you're fresh out of college. So that doesn't make sense. If I'm like, okay, well, let's go talk about it, am I actually helping him? No, I'm not. So then I have the place of by me genuinely caring about his results and improving his life, I'm not going to go down that path. I'm going to ask him specifically, and I'll tell him, hey, this is what's going on. Because if you look at my sales call, I closed him. He had $4,000 to his name, and he invested it into himself. Um, I didn't do a huge amount of question asking, which might sound like bad. It might sound like, oh, well, maybe you need to do that, and you absolutely should. That's a more persuasive way to go about getting people to do what they need to do. But I read him like a book. I looked at him and I was like, this guy is like textbook 9 to 5er, textbook.
Hmm.
And I looked at him and I was like, because he actually, I think I still even have my notes. When I was going through the process with him, I was like, okay, so I know you said you want to make money. Why are you wanting to do that? And his thing is like, I feel like I'm in a system. I was like, a system? What do you mean? And then he basically told me that he did, uh, since the time he got out of high school, he went to college. And then after he went to college, he's like, I'm going to become an engineer. I'm like, okay, so back then, you're in the engineering position right now. Is this what you saw for yourself? He's like, yes. I'm like, so then why are you looking for more money?
Can I make one mention here?
Of course.
Just one question. So like I like the fact that you brought this up because this is exactly what I feel like I'm stuck in, not in the sense of the system, but like in my perspective with B2C prospects where they not B2C, but like where they need to be part of the process. Of course, it makes sense to go into the future pace, into the consequence, because like in my mind, I reason that because they need the emotional leverage to be
Hmm.
consistent and so on, right?
Yep.
But with the done for you, it's more like, okay,
Trust.
uh, yeah, like they don't need to put the work in. So I'm asking them, okay, like I'm getting the future pace is just like a in my eyes is like a selfish way for me to confirm, okay, is there like a future pace? Okay, there is. And if I get any pushback and they say, yeah, I mean it's gonna be great, it's gonna be like that, I feel weird pushing into pushing more into the future pace when it's not like it's gonna help them into putting in effort or do you see what I mean? Like,
Well, the thing is, they are putting in effort, though. It may not be specifically into the hiring process, but they're putting in
mhm.
effort to grow their business. And here's what's unique about
Okay,
the business is that you're taking someone's livelihood and putting it in their hands. If I was to
yeah.
say, "Hey, Caesar, you now have to take care of my sister,"
Hmm.
how much vetting am I going to do of you before I let that happen?
A lot.
A lot. Exactly. And so if this business owner is coming back at you saying like, "Oh, well, I don't need to, you know,
Answer these questions, or
yeah,"
I
and
don't
so
need
be like,
to.
"Well, with all due respect, man, I've met you for 10 minutes. If I'm taking a man and his family and I'm putting him in your hands, I'm not going to let him down. So why should I allow you to be the guy that he works with or she works with?"
Hmm.
So yeah, it's true if you're just thinking about your company, okay, well, if it's a done for you, it's trust based. Yes. But
Yeah.
this is beyond that. This is you are
Hmm.
taking another human being who your company is going out and sourcing and selling them on him and his business and his business's future. Are you
Yeah.
going to go and take some person who has a family and kids and put them in a position in a business that you know is going to stagnate or go bankrupt? Are you going to do that?
Yeah. Or the CEO doesn't have like isn't excited about the future,
Right.
or isn't.
Are
Yeah.
what are the chances of a
No.
CEO who is like, "Oh, I don't need to think about the future"? What are the chances that company is going to be successful?
Yeah. Close to zero.
Exactly. So I understand that as the business owner, they don't understand it, but that's one of the biggest reasons why they are not like Elon. It's because
Hmm.
Elon, do you know how far into the future he thinks?
Yeah, like 10, 15, 20, 30 years, or even more, like a
No, he
hundred
thinks generations.
generations. Yeah.
Like he's thinking about his great grandkids going on Mars. Like, and that's like he's the same 24 hours in a day as this person you're speaking with. But the thing is, he's
Hmm.
coming from a different perspective. And the reason why he's doing what he's doing, obviously, there's work, there's connections, there's influence, there's all that other stuff that goes into it. But the biggest reason he knows where he's going and he can get very smart people who are very hardworking bought into his vision. And if you're speaking with a business owner who's like, "Oh, things are going to be great," it's like, great. How am I going to talk to this person who's an A player and say, "Yeah, if you work with John, he'll be great"? Like he's going to want to know the salary, he's going to know the projection, he's going to want to know where is his growth within the company. He wants to know all that, or she wants to know all of that. So you're actually doing a
Hmm.
disservice to the type of talent he can get or she can get by not getting clear on these goals. And by understanding if I put a person in this business, what happens if things don't go the way that things are supposed to go? What happens if the person you're hiring doesn't understand how important the role is? What does that look like if they do a bad job? If this position that now this person's paying $30,000 a year for isn't up to the standard, what does that business future look like? And you'll notice I'm consequencing right now.
Hmm.
Why? Because if the people you're hiring don't understand that, how important their role is, because that's the thing, people want to feel important. They want to feel like they're doing great things in life. If you're bringing on someone into his company or her company and they don't get it, they're not going to perform as well as someone who does. So, with all due respect, business owner, I know you maybe don't want to think about it, but to me, that's a red
Hmm.
flag. At which point he's going to be like, "What the fuck? What do you mean it's a red flag?"
Yeah.
Because if you're not willing to look at what you're going to lose and what the consequences and what that bad future looks like, that just means that your decision making process is flawed. You don't think about risk. You don't take tactical risk. You just willy nilly throw bodies in places and hope it works out. Now, what are the chances of you being able to get to where you want to go at the end of the day if that's how you think? Because this isn't a business conversation, this is a thinking conversation.
Hmm.
And the way that you think creates not even just your mentality, but your mentality creates your reality. And if your reality is not that of Elon Musk, congratulations, you can keep growing and developing it. Exactly. Here. It's a pleasure to actually meet you. I watched your podcast last year. It was super good. I think it was you were on you did one with it was Dylan. I think it was Dylan Knight.
Dylan Star.
Oh, Star. Freaking A. I keep messing up his last name. But
Yeah, man.
it's a
Yeah, that
pleasure to
was
have
good.
you.
Yeah. Pleasure's all mine. It's great to meet you. I think I've seen you around the space and things
Yeah.
like this. So it's good to finally meet you in person. Or
Yep.
digitally anyway.
Digitally. Yeah, one of these
Yeah,
days in person. Um, but
indeed.
but Caesar, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the perspective. I'm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because that's the thing.
It
I know
helps a lot.
that being in the closer role, you kind of like zoom in too much onto like what is the specific sales process, what is the specific technique. But if you allow yourself to take a deep breath and actually zoom out, step away for a bit and think, okay, well, what does separate $1 million business from someone doing 500 million
Hmm.
or $1 billion? Like they're just people at the end of the day. They're people that do things differently. And if you can know what those things are and you can show these business owners you're speaking to that difference, congratulations. You'll not only earn their respect, but you can hold them to a higher standard and you can consequence the shit out of them. Now, should you always do that?
Yeah.
Probably not, because obviously there's going to be doing too much and overcooking people. But that'll give you the ability to call people out if they're, giving you a hard time. Because then
Right.
you just basically say, like, with all due respect, man, like, I can't, in good conscience, get someone to work for you because you don't even seem to know why.
Hmm.
Want to kind of add on to that for sure. One of the things that as I was going through I think it was the beliefs and the confidence master class, like I'm still going through the process of the confidence master class for sure. When I went to the beliefs class yesterday, one of the beliefs that he called out was limiting beliefs is that without the perfect system, perfect framework, perfect script, perfect, team or whatever funnel, then I can't make sales. Like I can't do my thing. Um, and then today he kind of doubles down on that. Like if Michael Jordan came in and he was going through the process and he was telling someone how well will he do? He's like he would be absolutely incredible. And it's like sometimes it comes down to really a matter of, and I'm learning this now more than ever. It really comes down to it's not what you're asking, but who is the person asking it. If Elon Musk was sitting there asking this business owner about their process, their goals, and the challenges moving forward if they don't do something different, would they react the same to him as they did to you on the call? The answer is probably not. It's not necessarily so much that he is Elon Musk. Of course, there's a status that comes along, a status and celebrity that comes along with his name. But it's the fact that he is completely locked in and he shows up as a different kind of person, right? And it's like I said, it's kind of it's still coming around for me, right? But it's just like it's not necessarily what I'm saying. That I have multiple programs and courses and all those kinds of cool things, but it's always a matter of like, am I the person that they're willing to follow down the pathway? If I was in a haunted, if two people are in a haunted house, people are gonna naturally gravitate toward the person who is the most confident, who is the most certain, right? They're gonna naturally gravitate toward that. If there's a complete calamity going on in the world, in your neighborhood, in your city, or whatever, they're gonna naturally gravitate toward the person who seems to know what they're doing. And if you or me or anyone else doesn't have that, and they're already going through a possibly nerve-wracking process of sales, then guess what? They can't follow you because you're not as confident as you really could be, as certain as you really could be.
100%. 100%. That's kind of
Yeah.
one of the biggest differences I see talking with business owners doing multiple millions on this offer versus those that are, maybe more of the biz oppy, more of the struggling sort of entrepreneur, is that a lot of it has less to do with the actual thing or the tactic or whatever, and a lot of it comes down to what type of a conversation are you having with people? Because if they like in like a done for you where you're selling $100,000 like package, that there's not really a ton of like word tracks that you can actually say to make that happen. It's more so how you as a person are showing up. And do they look at you and say, okay, if I give this person $100,000, all this crap aside, do I actually think that this person's about it? And that's kind of a gut feeling. And they'll feel that if you are showing up and you feel kind of insecure about yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. Like everybody comes from a place at one point or another of having that experience, but staying there long term isn't something that you have to be in. if you're doing the work. And that comes down to your own self-concept of how you perceive yourself. Of at the end of the day, did I feel like I gave it my all? Am I moving closer to my goals at the end of the day? Like, is this role that I'm in helping me get to where I want to be? Because if you feel good about that, even if you bomb 50 calls straight, but you still feel like you're making that progress, guess what? You're going to feel great. Like this last week, I had a bunch of calls I ended up missing that could have come into sales. Did I feel bad about it? Yeah, until I thought about, well, where am I actually going with my life? Am I still on pace for that? Yeah. Okay. This might suck. I might need to get a different offer, or who knows? Maybe I'll stay on the offer and come talk to I tomorrow. Nobody knows. But it comes down to that internal game. And that's why mindset is such a big thing. And that's one of the reasons why Jack, as well as Dan, are starting to hit on this quite a bit more. Because I know of people that are dumb as rocks making freaking 40 grand a month. And I love them to death. It just is what it is. Tails, I think. Is that how I say your name?
Almost Talis.
Talis. Okay, Talis.
Yeah.
How was your day thus far?
Going really well. Not a lot of meetings. I got only one meeting today, but I closed this 12K deal, which was nice. So low volume, but high prices. So that's
yeah.
the current situation of things. A question that I have. So am I allowed to throw any type of questions in here?
Absolutely. 100%.
Awesome.
I love questions.
So right now I've got a bunch of B2B experience, like most of the sales that I've been doing over the past months, it's been B2B. And you face different types of objections between B2B and B2C. Like in the B2B, you're not going to educate a lot of people on, like, they have to have the mindset to take actions. Most of these people, they kind of already know, and it's more like presenting the service really well. And right now I'm about getting to some B2C offers. And there I know that often it is necessary to help people become resourceful, for example, to get the funds to do something. And in that aspect, I haven't found really any good material in terms of how that is done or how you help someone to get resourceful. So I was like, okay, could you pretend that right now I'm a person that, okay, I'm interested in the service, I'm bought in, but I'm not with a bunch of resources on the table. So then you can maybe talk about finding funding somewhere or talking about credit. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So you're basically asking, how do I get people in a position where they want to go out and find money? That's basically what you're asking.
Yes, in the B2C scenario, precisely, that I have no idea how to pull it off.
Okay. So the number one thing that I've noticed is like a difference between B2B and B2C is B2C, a lot of it is going to be selling on like them as a person and conviction and getting them bought in on the way I think about it is they'll do whatever is needed to make their goals happen. And their goals happen has to be associated with the program you're selling. I have a whole analogy I do to try to get them super bought in on it. But if we're talking about in objection handling, because there's like doing it pre-pitch and then there's doing it post-pitch. If you're doing it post-pitch, basically you tie down on, okay, do you feel like what we've gone through here today can actually get you to that goal, whatever it happens to be? Usually I associate it with some type of a number. If it's like a biz op, it'll be like to that 10K a month or 20K a month or whatever the hell they said. Okay, yes, I feel like this can. Okay, why? Okay, because of A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Okay, cool. Then you get clarity. Is it just a matter of, you actually having to find, do you have some of it, or do you maybe have to like get, a little bit more? I guess what kind of is the situation there? So after we get the tie down confirmation, then we get clarity on what is actually going on in terms of the finances bit. Once you get an idea of what is going on with the finances, there's a lot of ways you can do that. NEPQ does the classic, like, give them the option to come up with stuff. I know Bill is basically, is it that you got some of it, you got all of it, or you got none of it? I know that Cole Gordon likes to do what's called open wallet, which is basically, okay, so money aside, would you do it? Yes. Okay, cool. So for us to go and figure out a way, we have to figure out what exactly we can do to help you make this happen. To do that, we need to have an open and honest conversation about what's going on with your finances right now. And then based on that, we can figure out how to help you get it. Is that something you're open to? Yes, cool. What's your cash on hand? Okay, is that checkings or is it savings? Okay, do you have access to any credit? what kind of credit cards do you have? What's the available balance on each? And then what you can also do is ask about, okay, what's your credit score if you happen to have Affirm or you happen to have Klarna, depending on what that happens to look like. And if they have none of those, then what you can do is you can insert like a story, or you can insert something to like, hey, I actually know someone who came in and they absolutely crushed it, but they had to go speak with their dad, or they had to go speak with a very close friend, something like that. Or if you've done that, then you can say, hey, at one point in my life, I wasn't where I am. I had to go and ask someone to bet on me, and then I basically said, I will do it and I'll pay you back, but I need to get into this so that I can do that. Is that something you're willing to help me with? So you can start suggesting stuff like that, but before we talk about it, we first have to get them bought in that what we have is going to get them to their goal, and that they're willing to do whatever is necessary to make that happen. And whatever is necessary sometimes includes talking with people that you maybe don't want to talk about or talk to this about. You have to be open to being vulnerable and saying, hey, I need capital to accomplish these goals and I will pay you back. So I know that's a lot. I'm trying to give you as much as I can because there's many ways that you can slice it. I've been through, I feel like everybody's training at this point. Pierre probably knows the exact same feeling. But that is the biggest difference, is getting them tied down that your thing is going to get them to their goal, and they will do whatever it takes to accomplish their goal. And whatever it takes also includes going to speak with other people, getting creative around the finances. And then I know Matt Ryder usually likes to tee things off with, okay, so what are you going to do to go about getting this? Okay. And they usually like, oh, in the next 21 days, I'll go and I'll get a loan, or I'll go and do X. Okay, can you do that in 14? Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to stay in touch. And on March, or I guess on the 1st of September, I'm going to text you and I'm going to ask, what have you done? And as long as you keep doing that, I will keep fighting for you, and I will make sure that the business owner lets you in. But to do that, I need to know that you're willing to go out and do that. Is that something you're open to? Yes. Okay, cool. And now you have a post-call tie down that you will be following up with them, and that they will have taken action steps. And you can, between that time frame, be like, hey, what progress have you made? And then you'll be able to see instantly if they have made any progress. If they've made progress, great. If they haven't, obviously at that point you decide, is it even worth continuing to follow up with them? So hopefully that's not too much, and I'll be posting a recording of this to watch it back. But those are so many tools that you can use for it.
This was amazing. I haven't seen this so beautifully put. I think we should clip this and put this actually there. No, I'm not kidding. This was so well put right now. I think we should actually clip this and put there on the course there on the school, because damn, that was good. Thank you so much. I'm going to definitely watch the recording.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you asking the question. Otherwise, this wouldn't exist. And that's for anybody watching this later. If you don't ask questions, you can't get this stuff. So bring your questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to
appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else got some questions? I hope so. All right. If nobody has questions, I'm gonna start picking on people. All right. Well, we'll see.
I do. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, Hannah.
Okay, good. Sorry, I'm on a dog walk.
All right.
So I have this written down and I hope I can express it the same way. But basically, so what would you say in situations where you go straight, like you're going right into the content? Like, what if, nothing changes, you stay the same way, yada, yada, yada. And they're like, well, that's not going to happen. Like they refuse to even like consider that as a factor. Like, what kind of approach do you take from there to get them to like open up about it?
Okay. Well, so number one, if this is in a fitness context, typically they're in this position because they are doing the thing that is resulting them being in a position that they don't want. So it's not a matter of, I'm not going to let it happen. With all due respect, it's already happening, and it has been happening the past 3 years. So I can appreciate you don't want it to keep happening. But if we do exactly what we have done the past time frame, as has happened, because they can't deny it, because it is what it is. They literally spilled their guts to you on the call about the
Yeah.
last 3 years, it not being, them not loving where they're at. Then basically they can't get out of it, because with all due respect, it is actually happening in real time right now.
Mhm.
So if this continues to take place, as it has the past 3 years, where you have experienced X, Y, A, B, and C pain point, what does that life look like? And then it'll be more of the same. Or if it's like a negative direction, so let's say every year they put on a couple of pounds. So in 5 years' time, and then you do the math, you put on 10 more pounds. Oh, I'm not going to let that happen. Well, with all due respect, I imagine that isn't what you intended 3 years ago when you started to notice the weight come on. But now we're here. So, and you're not being a dick about this, you're just pointing to the facts.
Yeah.
And then not letting them be delusional about they will magically make a change, when up to this point, if they would have made a change, it would have happened by now and they wouldn't be in this situation.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I've noticed it happen. Like I get that a lot. And I don't know if it's like maybe a lack of, I don't know if it's because like I'm a female and in my previous offer, I was only speaking with men. And so they're like trying to, hold this like high level of like, I don't know, confidence almost, but it just kept happening. And I was like, am I
Mhm.
doing something wrong here? Or is it just that I need to address this properly?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that the biggest thing is in your mind, understanding that basically they are the base, they are the problem, and they haven't changed what they need to change, and it's going to keep going on that way unless they do something different. And if they're unwilling to accept that based on data, then that mentality has to change. If they keep thinking like that, not being open to seeing the way the world is,
Mhm.
and then you just kind of Dickens pattern off that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. That's
Yep.
really helpful.
Yep. Good question, Hannah. I appreciate you asking. I don't know. It sounds like if she's consequencing, they would probably be following along with the process, Mark. Um, let's see. Anybody who hasn't asked a question have a question? No? All right. Well, I think Taliz, I think you may have had a second question, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So when it comes to that identity strategy of closing people, of associating, hey, like what would XYZ type of person do in that situation? Um, I've seen some people doing this, but I think I know what I'm talking about, right?
So in terms
Or
of
not
using
really.
identity to have them decide who they want to be at the end of the day?
Yes, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
I have seen some people using it, but I haven't seen anyone articulate. Like right now, you just articulated the previous thing so well that I'm like, well, if you could also articulate this, like I
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
so happy right now. So like, uh, what is your way of looking at that? Like, what is the
Yeah.
how would you approach using doing that?
So to be honest, this is something I'm still trying to better understand. I don't pretend like I have, freaking Marco Cortese level understanding of this, because I don't. But that being said, I can give you my best interpretation. So the way that I understand identity is that there's different levels of, uh, for lack of a better term, persuasion. Now, this comes down to like environment, like specific, like immediate desires, like a whole variety of stuff. Now, part of it comes down to how we feel and then how we see ourselves like internally. Like when you think about who is Tommy, how would I describe myself? Or if I think about Pierre, how would he describe himself? And this isn't just what we feel like in a positive way. This also runs in the back of our mind based on the self-talk we have. So one of the things that you can understand is like if something bad happens, what do you immediately think about yourself? Do you think about yourself as, fuck, man, I just freaking messed this up again? Like, why do I always do this? Or is it like, oh, it's gonna be fine. Like things are cool. I'm gonna be in a good spot. Like that internal dialogue comes out in the way that people talk. Or if it comes to receiving things, like if you're like, hey, you know what, man, you're super well dressed today. Are you the type of person that accepts the compliment, is like, oh yeah, that's true? Or are you the type of person that comes back at it with something else and is like, well, the only reason why is because of X. It's because for whatever reason, something in your head, there's like a dissonance there, how you see the world, and you're trying to bring it back to order. Now, that's all a little bit esoteric, but how do we make it practical on an actual sales call? You will hear things that people say, such as, I am X, or I don't do Y. There will be things like, in a fitness context, I am a hard worker. That's like a character trait. I'm a mom. I put myself last. That's a big one. A good one, a couple of calls I've had with some ladies is like, I am not this way, but then they're overweight. So the way that they see themselves mentally is not the way that they appear physically, and there is a dissonance there that is painful. All right, Mark, I appreciate you.
I'm just
I'm not
joking,
dressed
man.
well. Yeah, exactly. You're starting to get into the NLP stuff. But basically it comes down to when you think about yourself, how does this person, like when you think about you, how do you think about yourself? And then how does the other person think about themselves? Because identity and how we see ourselves is one of the most powerful factors that influence us as human beings. Like if you come to me and say, hey, you have to go and steal from your neighbor across the street. Gut reaction. For me, that's a hell no. I am not the type of person that steals. That's just not who I am. You could argue that's how I was raised. You could argue that's based on my religion. You could argue all sorts of stuff. But when I'm given something, I have an internal reaction. And that internal reaction is how I see myself. So if someone is in a position today, they have accepted the reality they are in today. Whether they realize it or not, that is part of who they are. Now, in order for them to be in a different situation, in a different world, they must change the way that they view themselves. I think my camera's out of whack, but they must change the way that they view themselves. But you can only change the way you view yourself first by mentally understanding that you have to see yourself differently. It's kind of like you put on a different hat initially. But then once you do that, just thinking about it isn't enough. You must then follow with an action. Because, and I'm not going to go too into the weeds about this, but there's like a feedback loop that we have in our mind where we have a thought, and then the thought is pushed forward or let go if we have an action that follows. So if I'm trying to be more confident as a person, I'm going to have a thought of I'm a more confident person. Okay, what does a confident person do in this moment? He does X. So now I know that is what a confident person does. I must go and do that. If I don't, I am reinforcing me being an insecure person. And here's the thing. Here's the beauty of it. And this is why a lot of people don't long-term hold out and maintain an identity, is because the external world catches up to our internal identity eventually, but it's not overnight. So there's a saying out there, and you can find it on my Facebook page, but it's a saying called be, do, have. I did it on a call with a prospect, and what I explained to him, because this was part of the time when I was starting to try to understand this, is for you to get what you want, if we have the presupposition that we are where we are today based on how we see ourselves and on the standards we set for ourselves. So if you are not making the money you want to make, chances are the standard you set for yourself is at the level you accept. In order for you to level up to a new standard, a new person, that person has different standards, different actions, different decision-making processes that resulted in that. So I must take someone who is at this stage, mentally transplant them into this person. And then once I do that, they must follow up with an action step. And if they follow up with an action step, they reinforce that new version of themselves. Because when you talk about like what is the type of person that does ABC, what does he do right here, right now? What you're doing is saying, okay, if I had to take the brain of that person who's at 50 grand a month like you want to be, and I put him in your brain right now, what would he do? And here's the funny thing. If you take that person's brain, stick it in your brain, and then he starts to do stuff, eventually, over time, his actions will catch up to make that real. Now, if right now you're operating from the perspective of your own identity here today, and you keep doing that, as kind of alluding to what Hannah said before, of like, oh, well, I'm not going to let it happen, is like, with all due respect, based on who you are right now, it's already happening, and you're not getting to where you want to go. So, to try to wrap this up into a nice little bow, what has to happen is you get them to think like who that person is that has the life that they want. What actions and decisions do they do? How do they think? And then once you get them mentally into that frame, then get them to take an action. And once you get that action, it kickstarts a new feedback loop that will reinforce their identity. And over time, it'll drag them to their future. So if you're the type of person who's like, I want to make 50 grand a month, think about what would a 50 grand a month closer do? What type of actions would they take? How would they show up, etc. And then all you have to do is think about what would that person do, and then you do it. Now, there's a lot of literature out there, and everybody has their own unique spin on this. I don't want to get super crazy into it, but a couple of tools that I have seen people use with identity, even though they don't call it identity, is the alter ego. It's a book, which basically it's a mental trick for you to take yourself, pretend like you're someone else, and you start doing it, and eventually your world catches up. That's one. Another one is I don't know if you guys are a fan. Actually, I don't care. I happen to like Tate. Some people hate him. To me, I like his work ethic. I like the way he talks. What he says, if you watch one of his things back in the day, is he used a mental trick called his villain. Well, the villain was the perfect version of him that did everything every single day exactly the way it needed to be done. And then he, who was a super competitive guy, would compete with that guy and try to beat him. Well, if you think about it, he mentally transposed himself to think, what would this person do? What were the actions that he took? And then I'm trying to beat that guy. If you think about another guy I know, his name's Jay Waller. He's in the States. He's like a real estate dude. He thinks about, what does my 80-year-old self think about what I'm doing right here, right now? How does he think about it? What actions would he say I should take? And so in his mind, he again mentally transplants himself into a different situation with different results, thinks about the action steps, and then does those action steps. If you think about Alex Hormozi, I'm a big fan of him too. What did he do? He thought, okay, I'm going to transplant myself into a different situation based on what his dad doesn't like. And then I'm going to do it. So all that is to say, again, I'm not trying to be loquacious about this, but basically the trick is you think about, what do you want? Truly, what do you actually want? Then you think about what type of me, what type of person, what type of version of me in the ecosystem that is the multiverse, like what version of me has that already? Okay. What things did he do to get there? Okay. With that being said, if I start acting like that guy, my reality will catch up with that. And that is how you think about talking about identity. Now, to make this a little bit more tactical for you, people will say things that you can use, like I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm a hardworking person, I am an entrepreneur. That's like an internal thing that comes out of them. Those are the most powerful usually. If you can get them to understand the mentality they need, it's useful. So you should use it. Sometimes you can do an external identity. Now, the challenge with this is that if it doesn't make sense, they sometimes won't buy into it, and they have to buy into it. So one of the people that I'm working with, his name's Jimmy Hayes. Some of you know him, some of you don't. But basically, what he would do is he would go through his North Star, and then right after why now, he would say something along the lines of, hey, so we actually really love working with people like you because what we found is the best types of people that are kind of transitioning out of this 9 to 5 into being an entrepreneur, like those are the people that we get the most fulfillment with and we can actually help the best because they have an open mind. They understand that they're going through a transition and they understand that the way that they think as that 9 to 5er isn't going to be the type of person, isn't going to be that entrepreneur that thinks the way the entrepreneur thinks so that they can accomplish making this 30 grand a month that you want to make. Now, fundamentally, and then you usually backs up, but like fundamentally, that is what we help people with here. Is that the type of transition that you're looking to make? And then they buy into it. Yeah, I know. He's a G. Now here's the thing. That is like an actual like framework that he uses that he can plan into pretty much any conversation. Depending on the person, sometimes it's the business owner who's making 100 grand a year to the person who's that multi-million-dollar entrepreneur. So you're both an entrepreneur, but it's like different level of entrepreneur. Sometimes it's a full-on like career transition. Sometimes it's a level up sort of a transition. Like one of the guys who I sold for a guy named Brandon Turner, he's big in the real estate space. Basically, that guy had settled for where he was at as a multimillionaire. And I was like, dude, like you don't have to do anything. If you're doing anything, you have to level up as an entrepreneur. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, do you want to do that? He's like, yes, I do. So guess what? As soon as I got that new identity in the conversation, he ain't getting out of that. If he gives me any crap after the freaking pitch, guess what I'm doing? I'm using that. What type of decision does that next level entrepreneur make? Do you think he does the same thing that's gotten you to this point, or do you think he has to do things differently? Okay, what do you feel he would do differently right here, right now, so that he can actually have that higher level? I know that there's other people in the space that have other versions of this. Like I know, I think June Choi uses like standards. Kurt uses standards as well. Settling for less is the hook. So why do you keep settling for less? So there's different things you can use, but all this is to say, it's a mental, it's once you introduce this into the conversation and they accept it, either they have given it to you and you use it, or you put it into the conversation and they accept it. You have basically a baton that you can bash people over the head with. And that's why, all this being said, you need to use it for good. Because you can get people to do things that are not in their best interest if you do this properly. So that's probably a lot more than you were expecting to get. Because to be honest, part of this is me still trying to understand it, because I haven't been able to put it down on paper, which is what I usually try to do. Is like, if I had to distill it down to 2 sentences, what would it be? I haven't done that yet for this. Still have to learn, because there's so many other variables I have to account for. But all that being said, that is my best interpretation of identity. It's you are where you are in your life because of how you see yourself, and for you to do something differently, you must see yourself as different. And if you see yourself as different, you think different and you do things different. If you think of it as be, do, have, then you'll be good. And that's one of the things you'll notice as you go through Dan's process. That's actually full transparency. Before Dan, he and I were in the exact same training program at the exact same time. And I'm going to be honest, I already knew the whole North Star process before I met him and before he jumped in the box. Why did I invest in Dan? It wasn't because I needed to know the North Star better. It was because of the internal process he takes you through when you first get in here about what are your beliefs? What does your dream future look like? If you think about it, whether you realize it or not, he's helping rewire some of your identity as you go through this process, through getting clear on where you want to go and what actions you need to take. So If you haven't already, go through it. As Pierre kind of mentioned, I actually used ChatGPT and was like, give this to me one at a time so I can answer it. And I still have my list. It's helped me a ton. So I will shut up now. Mark, you have a question.
Not really a question. Two things that I wanted to, acknowledge. The first is that's a really, really helpful when like explanation of identity, right?
Mhm.
When you post this, you should post this as like an identity kind of thing,
Okay.
right? So people can just like skip to it. Because I asked the questions of like, well, in the future phase, are you actually ready to, move into that version of yourself who has already lost the weight, the version that you need to be, the version that you were 20 years ago, so that you can actually lose the weight. But then where I'm falling off is I'm not holding them accountable to that because they always
Mhm.
say yes in the objections,
Yep.
right? So that's one thing that I've learned. The other is, this alter ego effect that you started with. I can see how you can get yourself out of slumps with that because I recently was in one and I'm just getting out of it now. And I felt like, maybe if I had asked myself, okay, well, I'm in a losing streak, but what actions and decisions do high performers make when they go through these? Um, and if I could answer that and then like made myself actually do those things, then I would get out of the
Yeah.
slump even quicker.
Now here's the thing. A little bit of feedback. Great. You're 100% on point. Instead of saying high performers, which is like a very general thing, make it
Mhm.
specific to you.
And your goal.
Yeah, to you and your goal. What is the highest performing version of Mark? The Mark that is able to make whatever your goal is. Like, what would he do in a situation where he's got a couple of calls that didn't go the way he wanted to? How would he operate? Would he allow it to affect him? What types of things would he say to himself, etc.? That is where you have a lot of power because that's when you can control your mentality off calls and you don't allow it to bleed into other things, which prevents slumps. And
Yeah.
here's the other thing too. No one likes to really talk about, but sometimes, again, we take accountability for our situation. We try to take extreme ownership, but there's going to be times where there's going to be ebbs and flows, and who knows, you might just be in a flow or an ebb, should I say? You might be in an ebb right now, and it is what it is. But the highest performing version of Mark doesn't allow that to affect him. He still does his process. He doesn't deviate. And because he does that, he actually maintains higher levels of performance because of it, because he doesn't let it get to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what does the version of Mark who's making 20K a month, what does he do in these situations?
Yep,
And then do
exactly.
them.
Exactly. And then that's all
Really
you do is like you insert yourself mentally to be that person, then you do the things that he does with that new mentality, and then over time, you will have the results that he has.
It'll catch up to me.
Yep, it'll catch up to you. And that's something that a lot of people who try this mess up is they're like they do it for a week or two, when in truth it probably takes more like a couple months. And then they're like, it didn't work. It's like, no, you just didn't give it enough time.
Exactly, man. It's like these prospects that come to me where they say they try a diet for a couple weeks.
Right. It's like, bro, freaking I'll be honest, this weekend I had like an amazingly bad for me food. Destroyed my whole week worth of freaking fitness progress. Um, but it was fun. And I'll be like, okay, well, if that's how I treat, if I did 5 days on and then I had one massive day off and it reset everything, can I expect like it to immediately take place? No. Like it does take time sometimes.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
excellent observation, Mark. Excellent observation.
Yeah, cheers for
Caesar,
that, Tommy. Really appreciate it.
I see you again.
Is anybody wanting to ask another question before I ask mine?
Yeah, anybody, if you have a question, ask now. Trust me. Going once, going twice.
Okay.
All right, Caesar.
Do you think I can also use this identity shifting, like for someone who wants to be like an entrepreneur at a way higher level.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, it doesn't make it kind of like doesn't make sense, because they're looking to hire someone. It's just like a small step in their business growth. It's not like with other coaching programs
Okay.
where I presume they're buying like mentorship or
Well, I'm gonna
it's
put
what
you
I'm
on pause there. In what
Mm.
way is taking someone else's life into your hand a small step?
Mm, yeah,
It's not.
that's
And the thing is that this works just the same as it does with different levels. Like I mentioned before, I sold a guy, multimillionaire, and then I was like, you don't have to do anything. Like you're fine. Go freaking go to Peru. Have fun with your wife. Like you don't need this. And he's like, but I feel like I need to. I was like, okay, but what you're basically telling me right now is you're wanting to level up. He's like, yeah. Are you sure? Because no one's making you do it. You're choosing to be that next level entrepreneur. Again, I said that word, next level entrepreneur. Does he buy into it? I don't know. He's like, yes, I am. Okay, he bought into it. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, if you are willing to be that next level entrepreneur, what does that next level actually look like? It looks like this, it looks like that, it looks like this, it looks like that, it looks like this, it looks like that. Okay. Again, you don't have to do this. I can show you what we've got, but the biggest thing for me is if you want to get results with this, you're going to have to be that guy. Are you willing to do that and commit to be that guy? Yes. Okay. Well, then I think what we do here can work for you. Because again, going back to Talos, the biggest difference between B2B and B2C is does the thing we're doing actually get them results, which it usually does? And then are they willing to commit to the process? If they're willing to commit to the process, some people who kind of get a feel for if I say I'm committed, then they're going to be like, ooh, I'm pinned down and I can't get out of that. Some people are going to be like, well, it kind of depends on what you do. It's like, regardless of what we do, because whether it's us or with someone else, at the end of the day, you have to commit to a process. And being that high level entrepreneur, are you willing to do that? Yes. Okay. And then you can go through it. But identity, 1000%. I know tons of people who sell entrepreneurs. In fact, one could argue that one of the only ways you can sell higher level people that are entrepreneurs is with identity. Because it's the ultimate bludgeoning tool for people that know about sales, that understand the process. It's the ultimate thing. Because what are they going to do? Not talk about it? Like they basically have to. And then once they talk about it, congratulations, you're in my game now. So to answer your question, Caesar, 100%. Like some of the best objection handling I've seen has just been about identity. It was identity, one pain point, and that was it. Didn't even have a full pitch. Actually, no, the one that I saw, the person pitched the wrong thing, objection handled a little bit, then they're like, frick, I did the wrong thing. They asked one more question, they went back into identity, and then they got this person to an upsell. It was actually masterful. Masterful. Um, really high level stuff. But yeah, identity is like by far, and I don't want to say that you can't use other stuff to sell because you don't, if you have a good sales process, you don't need identity to sell people. But if we're talking about I'm getting to a freaking 95% close rate on a decent offer and I understand the prospects and the stuff is in place, like that's where you can really start to crush. I know a guy on a very high level offer. I don't know if he necessarily is closing that much anymore. I think he more so has his own business, but he got to 85% close rate consistently. And the people that he didn't close, they got declined for financing. And those people that he ended up selling actually went on and did the work because of how deep he went with them based on their identity. It was nuts. Absolutely nuts. Everybody else on the offer was closing at like 30%. He was closing at 85. Masterclass. He also helped me understand a little bit. His name's Ahmed. I don't know his last name. I'd have to look it up. If you actually look up if you look up June Choi, June Choi did an interview with him.
I'm definitely gonna do that.
Yeah. Yeah, he helped a couple of these things click for me. Because here's the other thing you guys will get to know about me. Obviously, I'm with Dan, and I obviously love Dan's process and his program, and he does a lot of really good high level stuff. But I learn from everybody. I don't care if one of my friends has beef with another friend, which I'm not. Dan doesn't have beef with pretty much anybody except maybe one person we all know. But I don't. And if there's one thing I know and have had to learn, is this. I can learn something from anybody, whether it's what to do, what not to do. I don't have an ego about that. Now, there's some people that you just learn more. So you should probably prioritize learning from those people over somebody else. Yep, exactly. Pierre knows exactly what I'm talking about. Congratulations. But I'd say that's probably one of my unique things is that I don't like I try to learn from everybody because I feel like I can learn from everybody. Like I've done stuff with Matt Ryder. Like he's a G. In fact, you could argue he's one of the oldest running like salespeople in the high ticket space because he was there at the beginning. So kind of rambling at this point, but at the end of the day, all that matters is number one, are you getting the results you want? If not, why not? How do we fix it? And then I don't necessarily care who I listen to get me to that point. I just do what I have to do. I mean, of course, there's principles you have to think about that are always the same, but based on the almost $250,000 worth of sales training I've been through, like a lot of it is very similar. When you zoom out far enough, you're like, oh, freaking Jeremy Miner puts his thing at this point in the call, and freaking Matt Ryder puts it somewhere else. And then Cole Gordon puts it somewhere else. And then freaking Sweenham puts it somewhere else. And then June puts it somewhere else. And I mean, yeah, there's common people that have learned from the same mentors at the end of the day. But if you zoom out far enough, you're like, oh, these are the freaking 18 things that I notice across the board are always the same. They just reorganize them. Some of it's handled by marketing. Some of it's handled on the sales call. Some of it's handled by the person before they even show up. And as long as you understand all the variables, which I'm not expecting you all to, that's my job. So I can look at stuff and then reverse engineer a sales process. I can give you the answers you're looking for. And then you don't have to freaking spend $250,000 in sales training. You can just ask me. And I can give it to you. And you can know, okay, I just do this and I'm fine. So that was kind of a
Can I
ramble
just
fest.
ask a follow-up on that?
Yeah, apologies.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It was very helpful. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from with this idea that, you know, taking the life of someone, you know, that's not a small step, but I feel like some people, you know, they do see it as a small step, and me coming in with this like sort of, oh, like it's so important and it's such a big thing, they would be weirded out by like how, like the difference in how I'm seeing it, right? And
Is that a you problem or is that a them problem?
yeah, I guess it's a them
Could it be that
problem.
one of the reasons why they're not as successful as they want to be is because they don't give a shit about people? Oh no, but I care
Yeah.
about people. Really? Okay. Well, then help me understand. Like, I'm trying to understand why I should take someone's livelihood and stick it in your hands, and you're basically brushing it off like it's not a big deal. If I went to your payment processor and then blacklisted you off of it, how would you feel? Shitty.
Mhm.
Now, that exact same feeling is what I'm trying to avoid putting someone in your business. Because it's basically the same thing. So can you understand why I actually give a shit about the people that I'm connecting you with? And I don't just want to throw them to the wolves. Again, Caesar, this comes down to the mentality. Like, how are we approaching this? I know you're like, well, if I do X, then they'll come back with Y. You're being very analytical, which is fine because I'm the exact same way. But it really comes down to if you from the bottom of your heart feel that what you're doing is important and it's important for them to be that way and you believe that, you're not just saying it to make me happy on these calls or make Dan happy, Like
No.
a lot
No.
of these problems
It's
will
just
disappear because they'll realize they can't get away with a shitty attitude about stuff. It's kind of like if like I mentioned before, if I'm connecting my sister with someone and I'm like, her future is depending on this, what level of care would I take with that? I would freaking go to the moon and back. So then, if that is my intent, why am I not doing it for these other people? Do I just not care about them? I mean, I care about people. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to freaking make all the money in the world. Some people don't seem to believe that, but I do. If I can help people, I will. Obviously, I'm only human, so there's some things I can't do. Like I can't give you all $1 million yet. Eventually, maybe. We'll see. But all that is to say,
Mhm.
if people come back at you with stuff, you just need to think about this person you're speaking with is not where they want to be, and that's why they're looking for help. Okay. The reason why they are where they are today is their fault. Because there are people out there in the world today that have found great people for cheap that are now off to the races. And they've got multi-million-dollar companies or $500 million companies or $1 billion company. So the reason why they're not happy with where they're at is because of them at the end of the day. Because, I mean, I doubt the people you're speaking with are freaking like billion-dollar companies. They're usually
Yeah, they're
like
not.
small businesses, like $10 million or something like that. If that. If they're less than that, then it's even more laughable.
Yeah, no, it's not. I just speak with that kind of people as well, like 10 million per month per year.
Yeah, so they're a small business. According to venture capital, they're classified as a small business. They don't freaking get to have an ego. If we're talking with $1 billion company, okay, cool. But they're only $10 million. I know people that freaking do more than that. Not to make this about me. That's not my intention. It's just to impress upon you, Caesar, that this is all about perspective. And if they are not the type of person who's wanting to acknowledge someone else's life, I would be wondering, who the hell are you? Are you a psychopath? Sociopath? Like, you could even joke and be like, are you just a psychopath? Is that what this is about? Um, all right, let me just double check this.
Yeah.
I think I may have to bounce, guys. All right. All right, interesting. Okay. Yeah, guys, I'm gonna have to bounce up the guys in the waiting room. But people, golden nuggets in the WhatsApp or in school or whatever happens to be nowadays. I will get the recording out as fast as I can. But I appreciate you all jumping on. Tales, Mark, Christian. I know that we haven't spoken. You're kind of sitting there in the background. I appreciate you showing up. Hannah as well. And then Spencer, I see you too. Pierre, Colin, appreciate you hopping on as well. And of course, Caesar, as it always is. I'm gonna peace. Gotta go. Otherwise, golden nuggets in the WhatsApp. All right, guys, take care.